going to make some Buttered Beere. Now you might think to yourself, oh, I've had Buttered Beere. I've been at Harry Potter World. Well, the Buttered Beere you have at Harry Potter World is not really beer. No alcohol in it for start. Okay, but what many people don't appreciate is that old J.K. Rowling actually based a lot of her things around actual real life foods and, you know, other things. And Buttered Beere was something dating right back to Tudor times. So we're going to make some authentic Buttered Beere with beer. Now, there are a couple of places you can find the recipe for it. I found this from old Max on Tasting History. Okay, but the recipe that he quotes there and that we're going to be making our Buttered Beere from says basically take 3 pints of beer, put 5 yolks of eggs to it, strain them together and set it in a pewter pot to the fire and put it in ½ pound of sugar, 1 pennyworth of nutmegs beaten, 1 pennyworth of cloves beaten, and a halfepenniworth of ginger beaten. And when it is all in, take another pewter pot and brew them together and set it to the fire again. And when it is ready to boil, take it from the fire, put a dish of sweet butter into it and brew them together out of one pot into another. I'm not quite sure what all this, one pewter pot, and then apparently we've got another pewter pot. I don't know what we're doing. So, but that's the recipe we're going to follow. Okay. And that dates back to about 1588, that recipe. Okay, so let's get going. I've got all my ingredients here. So, well, might as well get started. I've got a couple of bottles of beer. I've got 55 grams of unsalted butter. I've got 2 egg yolks. I've got 110 grams of demerara sugar. And then a 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg. I've got some cloves. Now, it does say ground up as well. But I'm going to put the cloves in and we'll just make sure we sort of oink them out. You don't want to get eaten a clove. And then just under a 1/4 teaspoon of ground ginger. And that's it. So the first thing we're going to need is a saucepan. And then I'll need a bottle opener. And I've forgotten to get one out. So I might go and get a bottle opener. So I've added 1 bottle. Okay. Now really this would work better with real ale. Okay. This is unfortunately bottled, which means it's a lot more gassy. Okay, so it's tending to foam up, and ideally we don't want it to foam up too much. All right, so anyway, I've put that in there, and what we're going to do now is we're just going to put it on a low heat, and I'm just going to put them spices in. So in goes those cloves, the ground nutmeg, and the ginger. Okay, and we're just going to, as we whisk on, we're just going to sort of gently whisk that together. It will foam up, particularly because it's a bottle beer. Okay, it is very much an acquired taste, so I wouldn't waste your good beer on it. Okay, my wife bought the cheapest she could find in Tesco's. I said to her, actually I quite like that one, so I swapped it for another 2 that she bought me yesterday. Actually didn't, she bought me last week and I didn't drink it. So you can see, because this is a bottle, well, you can't see, well, you might be able to actually, it is actually foaming up as the old CO2 comes out. So we're just going to keep an eye on that because we don't want it boiling over. So the next thing you're going to want is a bowl. And if you were being observant, you would have noticed that bowl suddenly got bigger because it was a lot smaller over there. And now look, it's grown. I decided the other one was going to be a bit tricky trying to do it. So what I'm going to put into there is my 2 egg yolks. Okay, I believe old Max, if I remember rightly, he just chucked the old eggs in because he said it doesn't actually alter the flavour that much, so he just chucked the eggs in. So next thing we can do is we're going to put in that demerara sugar. If you haven't got demerara, you can always use soft brown. All right. So we're just going to sort of whisk that together. It's not obviously very liquid because there's not an awful lot of liquid there, but we're just going to mix that in together, and then we'll just put that to one side. So we're literally just going to let that come up to the boil, and then we're going to turn it down, just let it simmer for a couple of minutes. Now, he mentions, like, you know, if you don't want any alcohol, boil it for 20 minutes. In all honesty, as soon as that goes up to boil, like that is now, that's going to start losing alcohol. All right, trust me, I used to work in a brewery, or 2 breweries. So we'll just put that to one side. Do you like me Buttered Beere tea towel? That's married for. So we're just letting that simmer for a couple of minutes. So when it's simmered, we'll come back. Right, that's had a little bit of a simmer. So all I'm going to do for the moment is I'm just going to take it away from the heat while we stir in our sugar and egg mixture. Okay, which I might just get a spoon, and I'm just going to give that a quick whisk, because what we don't want to happen is we don't want the egg cooking, so don't want to scramble egg, don't we? So in goes that sugar. Now I've obviously cut this down because I wasn't going to waste 5 pints of beer on this stuff. Okay, so now it's stuck on the spoon. So what we're going to do now is just going to whisk it back into there, okay, and then we're just going to put it back onto the heat. He says he keeps putting his arm over the top of it because it's still on. We're now just going to put it down on nice and low, and we're just going to heat that up for about 5 minutes. Okay, now if you didn't want it alcoholic, something wrong with you. Well, I suppose if you can let the kids have it, but then why would you waste beer? I suppose there's some odd people in the world, isn't there? If you didn't want it alcoholic, give it a good 20 minutes boil. That will definitely get rid of all the alcohol. Alright? So, like I say, it is quite an acquired taste. It's going to be very sweet. Egg probably won't really taste the egg, certainly not with that amount of sugar in it, but it will be buttery when we put that butter in. So, I've got the butter ready, so 5 minutes. Let's get the timer. Okay, got the timer, 5 minutes. Now I've got a little bit of nutmeg there, because what we can do is, if you want, give it a little sprinkle on top. And I've also got my tankard ready to put it in. Okay, now obviously I'm not going to put hot buttered beer in there, you won't like that. But anyway, we don't really want it hot. You're meant to drink it warm. Now, he does say, on Max, that if you don't want it warm, if you prefer it chilled, you can always add it sort of towards the end when you're, you know, getting ready to drink it, some cold milk. Anyway, we're going to give that 5 minutes. Right, so now we're going to put that butter in. Like I said, I've got about 55 grams there, and we just want to whisk that in so it's all nicely melted. She seems to be doing that a bit slowly, and then we're just going to let it simmer for 10 minutes. Yeah, won't be any bloody alcohol left in this, I'll tell you. So it's an interesting murky brown colour. Obviously that was a golden ale, so it was quite a pale ale anyway. So I'm just going to whisk that butter in, and then once that's all disappeared, we're just going to let that simmer away for 10 minutes, and then I'm going to take it off the heat, let it cool before we sample it. Now just before we sample it, we're going to give it a nice good whisk, get it a bit sort of frothy as it were, and then we'll taste it. So it's interesting, isn't it? All right, I'll let you go. Okay, so I'm just going to give it a quick whisk up, get a bit of airhead on it. It's still quite hot. I did just check the temperature. Probably break the bloody glass now. So I'm just going to ladle it into my glass. Now, like I said, I put the whole cloves in and I've strained them out. So in that goes. Just going to give it a little sprinkle. I knew if I tipped it in there I'd end up with too much in there. Well, there's quite a bit of nutmeg in there already. But there we go. There's our hot butter beer. Let's give it a go. Weird. You get a cloves. I did put quite a lot of cloves in. It was meant to be a quarter teaspoon of ground up cloves. So I had just sort of a quarter teaspoon, a heaped quarter teaspoon of unground. So by the time that had been ground down, it's probably less than that. But you get that. And you get the ginger. And you've got that sort of smoothness, which I think is the butter. And I have to say, it ain't that bad. It ain't that bad. I quite like that. Bit of a waste of beer, mind you. Just trying to think there's something else of the flavour I get. Oh, it's also very sweet, as you'd expect. But there you go. Authentic Tudor buttered beer. Not quite what you get from Harry Potter World. P. I didn't try it, by the way. Harry Potter World one. Meant to be just like butterscotch. I like butterscotch, but anyway. Cheers. Oh, I think I just swallowed a bit of clove.